Hi, out there in internet land. uh, want to welcome about 18 people here. We have at our raw food potluck. Thanks for coming out. Woo-hoo! We got a full crowd here. We had delicious food. I invite you all to come out the second Saturday of every month at 5:30. We're at Scottsdale Natural Grocers. I'm Mary, and I host this one every month. We have Mary Ann in the crowd who hosts at Gilbert Mesa potluck the third Saturday every month at 5:30. So get involved. We have a great time. So tonight we have with us a special guest who is no stranger to us. Mark Wuolle has been at our potluck before. He's spoken, and he's one of our most popular speakers. I'm going to just read the bio that I sent in the email, but I'm going to add something to that Mark doesn't know about. So Mark has a degree in engineering and business. He's an independent researcher on a variety of health topics. His passion is encouraging designs for cities for greater walk friendliness and safety. Over the past several years, Mark has presented at 4 local vegan potlucks. And tonight's topic is on preparing food shortages. But one thing I wanted, and then afterwards, Mark wants to get everybody involved, and we're all going to put our brains together and try to help solve the problem. So we're all prepared. So, what I love about Mark when he speaks, because I was asking him personally to please be our speaker tonight, is that he's very humble. He does the research and he presents what he finds, and he also shares from his own personal experience. And so we just want to encourage everybody that if you're, super picky about whether something's factual or not, to just have a little grace and just realize that we do our best. None of us are experts or know everything about everything. When we get speakers, we present as much as we can from research. And I just want to thank Mark for doing that. So without any further ado, Mark.
Thank you, Mary. So again, the topic tonight or this evening is preparing for food shortages, and not really a topic that I would have wanted to speak about. And I'm not an expert in it. I want to become a lot more smarter in this area, but it's something that's got on my radar screen with a lot of news and a lot of people I've been talking to around the country. So I think if there are going to be food shortages, I'd rather be prepared than not prepared. So part of this is to stimulate discussion, stimulate ideas. I think you may walk out of here with more questions than answers, and that may be the starting point of a good journey. So you're not going to have a 1, 2, 3 at the end of the night. Like you might, but I think I'm trying to get people to think creatively and be prepared and start building networks with other people who are thinking creatively. So one thing it's not, I want to tell you first, who here know what a prepper is? If you show of hands, if you know what a prepper is. So I know a couple preppers, and I know there's a lot of them out there these days. They're ready to go off grid. And this one prepper compound that I toured in Alabama in the North Georgia border, I was there for half a day. This person and his personal friends, they have 400 acres, and they're prepared to be there 3 years with no outside thing. But that's not what we're going to talk about here. They hunt, they're going to fish, they have 2 streams, they got water. I mean, they are ready to go off grid, talk to nobody for up to 3 years. And then if whatever crisis comes is more than that, they're going to have to restock, and I don't know what they'll do. But we're not talking about that level. And just to give you a framework, I've spent probably a third of my life in Florida, and Florida has to deal with something that starts with an H. Hurricanes, very good, the big H. And Florida people do have to be prepared because about every several years something major comes through. I was there in 2004 when within 2.5 months 3 hurricanes crossed through central Florida. And I was living in a condo complex on the 12th floor. We did not have electricity for 2.5 weeks. When you went to the grocery stores, they were out of bread, they were out of water, they were out of milk, they were out of a lot of stuff. And they said that as soon as the truck came, these relief agencies would come and buy the whole truckload of everything, water thing. So if you weren't prepared And you know, and then just think of it. So the think of the stairway. I'm on the 12th floor, right? So think of the stairway when you're going up and down the, you know, the stairs. So for the first 3 days, there's these lights at every corner, you know, that are there to guide. They have a little bit of light, but the batteries eventually go dead on them. So I was, and my batteries eventually went dead too on my flashlight. So I learned to climb 12 flights of stairs in the dark, you know. So I'm kind of talking about that type of preparation, but that for a crisis that may occur for a month, but not for years. If you're thinking years, then that's a deeper level. And I'm not saying we shouldn't think of that, but maybe a starting point is to think kind of Florida mindset. Like there could be disruptions that could be, you know, a month or so. And gasoline's a challenge in Florida. You know, getting lines, you know, half-mile long, and then by the time you get there, it's empty, right? Oh, we just sold out. That all the tanks are empty now. So Floridians have to deal with that from time to time. So I've been through probably 7 hurricanes in my life in Florida. And they weren't all bad, but some of them were challenging. Anyway, so that's the framework. Okay, another framework, just to kind of have fun, a little something light before something heavy. So I was watching a YouTube video on this about 2 months ago, and it said, you know, the one food you need to be prepared for coming food shortages. And this had like 300,000 views. So I was, you know, I took the clickbait. I saw 300,000 views in the title, the one food you need. So they ramble on through it, but you know, about midway through it, like 20 minutes, they're telling you, you need meat, and you need meat because you need protein, and you can't really get quality protein without meat. So they're like fill up your basement full of canned meats. So how many people here does that resonate with? Filling up my basement with canned meats. Is anybody going to go for that? I just was like, I'm not there. You know, I'm not really a protein worry freak. I mean, I've been vegetarian since 2004, and the number one question I get consistently through all those years is, where do you get your protein? I mean, and they just don't understand that fruits, I mean, the vegetables have protein, nuts have protein, seeds have protein, you know, a lot of good things have protein. So anyway, I didn't make a whole list of that, but I'm not worried about protein. I'm a living, walking experiment. I get about 1/3 or less the recommended dietary protein amount for an adult, my size, weight, etc. So I've been going 2004 with about 1/3 the protein level. I am not worried about protein. I'm worried a lot more about nutrients. So we'll circle back to nutrients. But this is the tough part of the talk that I don't know. You can give me feedback afterwards if it was too heavy. But this is the reason why we're talking about the topic. So I wrote a little thing here called "What could cause food shortages?" Well, you know, in my lifetime in America, we've never really had to worry about it at all. Like, I've had abundant food, except for a few Florida hurricanes, little minor inconvenience, nothing to worry about. But these global think tanks like McKinsey, Brookings, the Atlantic Council, the World Bank, and even news organizations like CNN, which are a bit on the liberal side, they're all talking about food shortages, global crisis. They're not saying it's going to be America, but they're saying there's going to be. And the World Bank, and all of these are ones that I found just recently, and these are all within the last 3 or 4 months. These aren't articles from 2003 that somebody's regurgitating. These are recent articles. You can find them by different organizations, and they all use the word food shortage or even global food crisis. That's what the World Bank, these really smart, rich people, are saying, global food crisis. So what could cause some food crisis? So some of the factors, weather, you know, hurricanes, but there's also drought, there's flood, there's too much heat, there's freezing, you know, like if you have something blooming and all of a sudden a late freeze comes in, you can destroy crops. So weather is a factor. You have pests like insects, locusts. Has anybody here heard of locusts destroying crops? I mean, maybe in Bible times, but has anybody heard of locusts destroying crops in our day and age? Has anybody heard of that? There's in Africa and different parts of Asia. When locusts, however they decide to do their multiplying of things, they swarm in the billions. It's not like there's 10,000. They're in the billions. they can totally devastate crop. So, and then there's, rodents, there's plant diseases and blights, things, bacteria and fungus that can destroy crops, just like humans can have, there's diseases. Then there's a factor I call man's tinkering with agriculture. We have a monoculture type of things. God created maybe 1,000 different kinds of bananas. How many kinds of bananas can you buy in a store? One. How many apples can you buy in a store? 5, 6, maybe. There's over 1,000 varieties that God created. But we've, potatoes too. We're all about 1 or 2 kind of things, and on and on and on. We've become a monoculture where God created a wide range. Why did God create a wide range of different crops? Because if any disease attacked this one, you have others. There's plan B, C, D, E, F, G, all through the alphabet, and 50 alphabets. But when you put all your eggs in one basket and the basket breaks, then so monoculture thinking is, I think, a risk to global food security, and we've totally bought into it. There's also maybe unintended consequences from GMO, which are still emerging. We don't fully understand what we've done with our food yet. The officials will all tell us it's all safe and good, but I'm a bit on the skeptical side. Pollution in water can cause issues with food security. Supply chain issues. There's one in the news today that, so food, we don't grow it locally. There's not a garden right out here and I'm getting my food from. It's coming, like the broccoli I brought tonight. I looked in the package. I got it at Trader Joe's, organic broccoli, frozen. Came from Peru. That's a long way to go. It's delicious, but that's not really the best thinking for if there's going to be interruptions, of ports or airports or things. So anyway, supply chain issues. And here's one that just hit the radar today on my news, was California is now ultra regulating trucks. They don't want independent truckers. And so that's going to put 70,000 trucks off the road. And do you think that's only going to impact California? California is the #1 food producer in the United States. And a lot of the stuff that comes in from Asia through ports, not food, now clothing and goods, electronics, comes in through ports through California. And if you don't have trucks to take it to other places, or if you reduce that number of trucks by 70,000, that's a factor. So strikes anywhere in the food chain, workers, laborers, or truckers, or grocery store workers, anywhere in the food chain where there could be a strike could cause problems. There's fertilizer shortages because the Ukraine war is one that those regions there at war are some of the biggest fertilizer producing areas in the country. So fertilizer prices are, I think, at least tripled. Tom may know even more, but I think they've at least tripled in the last year. If there's fuel shortages, our tractors run on the old-fashioned fossil fuels, but some governments are pushing that we get rid of those fast, but we don't really have the electric grid to support all that yet. But they're trying to shut one industry down without shoring up the other one. So there's our electric grid is already vulnerable, and they want to push more and more to it. With cyber warfare and things, China or Russia could take out our electric grid. It could be on a small scale. It could be on a big scale, statewide or multi-state. So, and that leads into one thought I have on food preservation is I'm personally not going to rely on freezer as my main thing, because I think freezers are great when times are good. You can store things a long time and go get them when you want. But if you don't have backup generators and things like that, freezing might not be the smartest thing if you do think there's going to be some electrical shortages. And I'm an electrical engineer by training. That doesn't mean I'm smart about the grid, but the grid has been vulnerable for a long time. And as more and more things are pushed toward the grid, it becomes more and more vulnerable. So, and there's cyber warfare now, which could cause big problems. Other things that can cause food shortages are wars and pandemics. Anywhere the ports could be closed, airports could be closed, workers may not be able to go in a zone because it's a battle zone or a pandemic zone. So these are all risks to our food. And then I wrote the last one, I think is maybe the most profound one: overzealous regulation by governments. you know, such as we're seeing in California, where they want to regulate everything, and they're not really thinking it through all the way. They maybe see 3 or 4 moves ahead, but they're not seeing a year or 2 or 3 down the road that what some of these things could potentially do. And just to show you that governments don't always have the answer, our best interest at heart, in the Ukraine, under Stalin in 1932 and 33, 4 million people starved to death by food policies that where they took away the right to. We were talking about freedom there for a minute with somebody, but the freedom to have my own garden or my own farm, they took that away. All farming had to be done collectively, and the end result was 4 million people starving. So in China, Chairman Mao had the same brilliant idea. We're going to eventually, we got rid of individual farms and collective farms only, and Mao succeeded to kill over 30 million people in 1959 through 1961. And these, I mean, people starving, not through war, but through agriculture, food policies that resulted in massive. So, and just a quote from the Bible, or not a quote, but a mention of the Bible. In the Bible, in the book of Proverbs, it says that the poor go hungry even though there's abundant food nearby because of injustice. So injustice is a factor even back to biblical times in food. So the reason I gave you all that, I know that was heavy, it's bad news, but that kind of sets the stage for why are we talking about this. Well, all those things happen. Even if only 1 or 2 of them happen, we could have some serious problems. Hopefully none of that happens, right? So on some good news side, we said we'll talk about food storage and growing food and building community. That was the talk. So probably the biggest thing we'll mention is food storage. And I'm new to this. I'm very fortunate. I'm going to be going to Indiana in about 2 weeks, and I'm going to be staying with a guy who's not a farmer, not a food guy at all, but somehow in the last 2 months, he's decided he's going to can, and he's canning every day. And canning is not cans, it's jars, it's mason jars. And he doesn't know why he's even doing this. He says maybe God put it on his heart. He doesn't know, but he's just like massively producing food, enough for himself and others. You know, not enough to feed a city, but enough to feed friends too. So anyway, so I asked him what kind of food canning he's doing. He goes, well, he's mostly doing water bath canning. Now, who knows what that term is? Water bath canning, because that's a new term for me. I only learned it from my friend the other day. So that's a write it down kind of word, water bath canning. It's also called boiling water canning. It's a great way to preserve some types of food. So some good news here now is I said, well, where are you getting your knowledge from? Because this guy's not an agriculture or food guy. He goes, oh, there's tons of information on the internet. And he goes, one of the best places that we don't think about, we always want to go to, I do at least, want to go to YouTube first because, you know, get some smart person talking about it. He goes, the best place to learn about food preservation is these agriculture extension offices that are all around the country. Every state has a school that's the ag school for the state. And they have these extension offices that teach people how to farm and garden and can and preserve things safely. And that information is currently fully available to us. There's not been any censoring of that or anything. So there's tons of really good information out there. I went through and looked at the University of Arizona. If you want the website, it's extension.arizona.edu. A bunch of stuff, but you can go to other states too. Purdue, the University of Georgia, University of Maryland, University of Michigan State, University of Illinois. They all have like a lot of documents you can download for free. Some things they want you to pay for and take classes or webinars. But there's tons of free information on how to do food storage safely. And it's important to learn how to do it safely because protein can result in botulism. I don't understand all that, but it can kill you. So you don't want to just do it on your own because you're smarter than the experts. I mean, you want to follow the advice that's proven to be a safe way to do things. And things that have fat in them also, I heard, have more problem with things. So anyway, you want to follow the right course of action when you start getting involved with food storage if you're going to be canning kind of things. And then if you have high acidic things, you can can them with this boiling water or water canning method. If they're low acidity, then you have to use something more sophisticated called pressure canning, which I don't really understand yet. I'm brand new to it, but there's a lot of articles about pressure canning. And the one thing that's important to know is, like, vegetables need to be pressure canned unless you put them in a bunch of lemon juice or vinegar to bring the pH down. So I know that's a lot of information there, but those are things worth looking at. And these extension services have lots of good information. And they have videos and webinars and things like that too. I would like to actually get like some level of certification in like level 1 canning or food storage or something like that. I think it would be worthwhile. And they, almost all of them offer, coursework where you can learn it. Sometimes it's free, sometimes it's has a little bit of fees to it, but nothing super expensive. So back to that thought of where that first video I watched where the person said, oh, I got you totally covered. Just buy a lot of meat, put it in your basement, and you're good to go for anything that comes. So I'm not worried about protein so much. I'm concerned about nutrients. I want my body to get all the nutrients it needs. I don't really care about the protein, but nutrients is super important. So, and I think each person needs to come up with their own framework. If you're going to do, if you buy into the idea that you should be prepared, that's level 1 buy-in. But then how do I prepare? What am I concerned about? What do I want to have? Do I want to just have, meat on hand or what? So I want to have nutrients and and the best sources of nutrients are what in our group here? What by category? What's our best source of nutrients? Plants, greens, plants, greens, and another word, a good answer would be veggies. So I think a lot of us know Dr. Furman. He's been at the leading edge of nutrition science. He's a medical doctor, and he's got a lot of books out, a lot of good information. He developed in maybe early to mid 2000s a scale on how to measure nutrient density of foods, and he's been promoting this for 10, 15, maybe longer years. It's called ANDI, A-N-D-I. And you can Google it. He's got charts and stuff. It's called Aggregate Nutrient Density Index, ANDI. So I first learned about ANDI in about 2010 or 2011, and I totally bought in. I thought, this is what I need to focus on. And ANDI, it gives you a rating of foods from 0 to 1,000. So like white bread's like maybe 5 or 9 or something like that, okay? It has virtually no nutrient density. So most of the foods that most people consume are under 100, or actually even under 50 on this scale of 0 to 1,000. So if you look at fruits and nuts, they're mostly 50 to 200. All the berries and the strawberries and cherries and all that stuff, apples, they're all within the range of 50 to about 200. And then, so I'm thinking, the scale's on 1,000, so that's the best that fruits and nuts can do. And according to Dr. Furman, yes, there's only one category of food that's over 200, and it's all veggies. Everything that's a 200 or over is veggies. And if you look at the things that are over 900, they're all green leafy vegetables, like kale, like spinach. So if you want maximum nutrients for that, so I'm thinking, kale, spinach is going to be in my mindset of food storage, because they're going to have they'll have some protein, but I'm a lot more concerned about nutrients. Okay, so a couple other thoughts on storage. How did people store food before we had refrigeration that we have today? Because our main mechanism today is freezers, refrigerators, right? That's our main way to do. But what were some of the ways we did in ancient times? What? Drying, yes. Oh. Wow, that wouldn't even come on my radar. Thanks for mentioning that. I'm gonna have to look at that. Oh, so the question was, so she was mentioning that digging a hole in the ground, and this worked in Phoenix with some of your ancestors, right? Root cellar. Yeah, so these are good words. If you want words to write down, these are words to look into. They're new words to me too. Okay, again, not the expert, but I want to learn how people did these things. Another one is, no one's mentioned it yet, but it starts with an S. Second, salt. Yeah, salt is a way of preserving things. And then pickling, right? Pickling, you always heard of maybe grandmothers or great grandmothers pickling things. And then what's another way that's, yes, thank you, Tom. Fermentation is like a super trendy topic these days in a lot of circles. And fermentation is a great way to add additional health benefits, nutrient benefits, and also preserve things for a lot longer. And it's a whole science in itself. You could probably study 5,000 hours just on fermentation, and you may not be an expert even. It's just an amazing wealth of possibilities for storing food and also increasing the health value of the food. So let's see, where are we here? So we talk about Andy and all that. So the next thing we want to mention is about growing food. So who's here has grown anything even as simple as a tomato before? Huh? Has. If you have grown something, you know, raise your hand. Grown some old there. That was funny. Okay, well there we go. That's a form, I guess, of growing. But so my grandmother, she grew just about all her own food. I was amazed. My grandmother on mother's side, she was a passionate gardener, and she lived to be 103 years old. And she, I mean, when her older years, she wasn't growing; she was too weak. But still, she lived she lived independently on her own until age 98. So, and she fell taking out a recyclable. So when that falling did her in because she broke her hip, and then she had to go to a special place, blah, blah, blah. But mentally, she was sound up until she died. Anyway, maybe those gardens she did maybe helped, maybe, I think. So anyway, growing food is something that, again, these extension services can help you do, not just canning, but they can help you learn about growing in our climate. Our climate is a different challenge than, say, Michigan would be, for example. So there's a lot of resources out there to learn how to grow, and there's a lot of videos and books, you know, container gardening, you know, 10 by 10 foot gardens. There's all kinds of things on that out there. So I would encourage people to learn about that, and then maybe we can have future discussions on this. Then maybe this is too advanced for tonight, unless you've already gone down that road a lot. But for me, I'm a beginner, but I want to go down this road. And another thing that's just kind of random, I don't know where to stick it in here, but how many of us like that we have access to supplements? I see that this grocery store here has, what, about 5-6 aisles full of supplements. How many people view that as something beneficial that you wouldn't want to see go away? Maybe they're not all good. Maybe a lot of them, maybe 95% of them, you're like, I don't care, they're not for me. But there's usually something in there you want. Well, the current administration has declared war on the supplement industry. And they are putting videos out, webinars out to doctors to discourage people from taking supplements. They're claiming that they're not regulated and that they need to be regulated. And you can fact check me on this if you think, oh, that can't be. But it's pretty easy to fact check because you can see the videos and the webinars they're putting out to doctors, teaching them to tell us on our doctor visits that we really shouldn't be doing supplements. So I just throw that out for your own edification on that. So then the last thing that I think is very, very important, we've covered food storage. We've covered just very briefly growing food. And on another brief one before we have a little discussion is building community. I know for me in this vegetarian vegan world that the reason I've been able to stay the course for a long period of time is because I've had great community. Both in Florida and in Arizona, I've had tremendous community. And it's just encouraged me. I mean, I'm not checking in with anyone daily or monthly like, oh, are you falling off or are you doing this? But just having people around who know how to do it or who are enthusiastic greatly encourages me. So I have internal motivation to keep going. So I think in terms of food storage, growing food, it's nice. It'd be nice to have community there. I don't have that community currently, but there are people I know who do have that. Marlene is one of them that some of us know, but that are further along in that, and they love to share their knowledge and bring other people on board. So there's probably meetup groups that discuss these things, and Zoom meetings and whatever. But I think to really go forward in this, unless you have a high degree of knowledge and self-motivation, it might be good to start forming community, start looking for a community, and then interacting to take this journey forward. Because I don't want to go for a month and then go, okay, I lost my energy and I don't want to do it anymore. I want this to be something. This food shortage could come in a month from now. It might be 5 years from now. It may never hit America. Maybe it's only for other parts of the world. I don't know, but I want to be prepared. So I want to start this journey, and I want to do it in community. So that ends my talk part, and we're going to open the floor for questions. And don't forget your question too.
But
Tom.
Mark, I want to point out the plant-powered people of Arizona is a, and I sort of had that in mind. It's kind of like herding cats in a way, but we have a community where it's based around eating healthy food and educating like what you've done. It's a tremendous presentation to get people to think about these future. So many people do, but that's the point.
Right.
This is my family. I have no children, so the plant-powered people of Arizona is my family, and it is something we need to consider.
And you make a passionate case for that. I love how you stated that. And our potluck healthy eating community can expand because we know each other. If we have people interested in going not other directions, but adding things to it, I think that's a wonderful idea. I would love for the PPP of Arizona, Plant Powered People Arizona, to be my main community for storage and growing food too. I would be thrilled because I already like these people. You know, I'm with people I enjoy being around. You know, so that would be awesome. So thank you for that reminder to say that. Anyway, so this is for just more discussions. Again, I'm not expert on any things about the pH, you know, and all this stuff we were talking about. So those are things you have to dig into yourself. But comments or discussions that you would like to hear from others, let's throw some more things out there. I'll repeat it. I'll repeat it.
We don't like that. If we have some ground, then we can get that and trade other that more money. So whatever. Yucky vegetables. No,
Yeah.
you know, whatever. But I mean, it has its place.
Okay, that's beyond my pay grade. So, okay, so a comment from Mary that I was a bit mocking canned meat for main storage, but she made the point that it could be negotiable, a currency, if you will, of if there's serious food shortage. So it's a point that I respect. I don't think I'm on board yet, but who knows, with time maybe. I really want to focus on getting those green leafy and other vegetables in a way that I have them on hand, or I know people who have them on hand, you know. So. Oh.
And in the fall, there's really a seeding of that's occurred. So
yes, that is ultra important. Yes, that's one of the things I forgot to mention on my list there. So sprouting multiplies, I don't know, 20 times, 30 times the amount of nutrient values in food. So there's, you know, all kinds of sprouts, radish sprouts, broccoli sprouts, alfalfa sprouts, clover sprouts, blah, blah, blah. But if you could, they're simple, you can grow them yourself. Even I've done sprouting before. And my friend Tom has started sprouting again recently, and he's having some good success with that. So sprouting is something we should, I think, all have in our toolbox for this. And that reminds me something else. I remember I met this mother of like 5 children in Florida, and she used to have potlucks once in a while in her home. And so someone was asking her for hurricanes, how are you gonna feed your family of 5 kids and your husband, he's a big, healthy guy. And she goes, well, I have a plan. She goes, I have a plan totally. We can go probably 60 days on wheatgrass. And she goes, I've learned to do wheatgrass, and I know it maybe isn't the best thing for months and months, but she goes, it'll provide my family tremendous nutrients for 30 to 60 days if needed. And she showed us her wheatgrass plan, and she had it all ready. It was all ready to go. So it's along the lines of sprouting. It's not exactly, but it's that thought of like super dense nutrition in a form that's easily done, easy to store. Right. So yeah, sprouting is probably one of the best ideas that's come out of this. If you wanted a takeaway tonight, I think sprouting would be up there in the top 3 to have a takeaway. So other good comments. Right, and you don't need a lot of sunlight either. You don't really need any sunlight, right? Oh, water. Water. What are we gonna do about water? Yeah, that's huge. I think we should all think about that. Yeah, and if you have a water system that requires electricity to do, that's okay. But what if electricity goes out? You need a source of water that doesn't have that. So I think it's. Oh yeah, we have time for several more. We're coming.
So there's a lot of things in the news right now about food processing plants that have either been on fire, been destroyed, flooded. There's about 40 major food processing plants. How does that play into all of this?
That's a great comment. So the comment was that if you've been watching news, it's not always reported that well either, but there's 40 some plants that have been through fire or some kind of sabotage or flooding or unexplained, pretty in a variety of states. It's not just one place. So there's something going on. I don't know how that occurs or why it occurs, but that's part of our food supply. A lot of our food comes from factories that have been gone through some shutdowns and challenges and damage. And again, I don't know why or how this is happening, but it's happening now. So 40 some plants. Yeah, so these major plants, yeah. So thank you for bringing that up. Yeah. Any other comments, questions before we wrap up here? Is this a topic that people are interested in digging in more themselves and learning more about?
I'd like to invite people that feel that they've had some experience with sprouting, for instance, or water preservation or filtering systems or anything around this topic to come to be a speaker at our potluck, give a demo, whatever. I think this needs to be pursued further. It certainly could be a whole topic for another night. So, if anybody is that person or knows that person, please connect them to me. And let's give a round of applause for our
Thank you, Mary. Thank you.
Well,